Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blackbar podcast. My name is Caleb, and I'm here with my buddy Nick.
Hey, how goes it? Caleb, where is Zach?
That's a great question. We were talking to him like 7 minutes ago, and his internet exploded or something. He's messaging me that he's restarting his router repeatedly. So hopefully he's here. He'll jump on.
Yeah.
He's telling me Xfinity is aware of drops that they're estimating he'll be back at 1 p.m. So maybe we'll see what we're going to do as much of the show as we can without him. Maybe I can see if he can jump in on his phone. Technically, we have the functionality, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. You know, I'm doing really, something like this throws the, into context that I'm happy to have internet right now.
Yes.
Otherwise it would be just you. But yeah, I'm doing well. Really excited for today's show. I think there's some stuff that we have going on that we're going to talk about. And if Zach's able to reconnect with us, I know he has some really exciting things to share as well. At least maybe exciting in the realm of it being really funny and fun. But in terms of exciting stuff, I know you have something that you want to share with us that's really exciting.
I do have some stuff that is pretty exciting, both in the world of the tech world, but also kind of personally, I guess, is pretty exciting as well. Also, hello, life on YouTube and X. Check 1, 2. Thanks for joining us. So if you've known me personally for any amount of time, you probably know that I am pretty much exclusively or completely deaf in my right ear. I have about 20% hearing, but I've never been able to. So if you ever catch me doing one of these in conversation, right, it's because you're not speaking loud enough, and I need you to talk louder. But a few days ago, actually last Friday, I was feeling a little sick. I had like a head cold thing going on, and my ears were bothering me. So I popped my ears, which usually doesn't do much of anything. And I popped my right ear, and after a full hour of what was fluid draining down my ear from when I was a small child, I could hear out of my right ear.
Wow,
which is pretty incredible. I basically, well, I say full hearing. It's definitely plenty loud. It's actually extremely sensitive. So loud sounds hurt me really bad.
I imagine after 2 decades of your eardrums being protected by whatever is in your ear, now suddenly just released to the environment would certainly have other effects on how you hear.
Yes, and as excited as I am at telling the rest of the story, I must conclude that Zach is actually back with us, everybody.
Yes! All right, Zach,
can you hear me?
Let's see him.
I don't know.
Zach.
Just Xfinity blow up on you? What was that?
Yeah, we've had some service out here the couple days, so I called Xfinity. They were like, "We are aware of service outages in your area until 1 p.m." So I could drop at any time. So just a heads up, but it's wonderful to see you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, is it really a live stream without technical issues?
Of course not, right?
No.
Something's got to go wrong.
Also, I will mention to everybody talking. I know last week I was a bit quieter than these other guys, and they were peaking a little bit. I know we've got audio guys in the chat. Let me know, and I'll fix it. I can adjust those things. So
don't let us go the entire podcast with subpar audio, guys.
Yes,
let us
trust
know.
me. I will find ways to blame my technical problems on you if you let me. So make sure.
Remember, you guys are friends, and friends don't let friends have bad technical audio issues.
Yes. Anyway, I think the interesting thing, and this is something I could really only speak to tech nerds about, is with my ears. I was told if I ever got hearing back in my right ear, it would never be fully in volume, which is fair enough, but also in quality. So I'm in this weird situation. Like most people, their ears go bad over their life and they're kind of equal. Mine is not the case. My left ear is perfectly fine, 100% healthy. My right ear, everything above 7 to 8K, it's gone. I don't hear it at all. So I have one very old ear or maybe very young ear, I don't know, and then one like normal adult ear. So depending on like the quality of or like with the headphones I have in or what I'm hearing, whatever, it's a weird experience, and I'm still getting used to it. But it's pretty cool to be able to hear. I've never realized how loud things are before. The refrigerator is so loud. Air conditioning is so loud.
I bet that's pleasant with a child, with a baby in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has these wooden balls that are her favorite toy right now, and she loves chucking them into the hardwood as hard as she can.
Oh my gosh.
And my head feels like it's gonna fall off every time.
Caleb, so I know you do like some balancing for your headphones and stuff. Do you do that in your car too?
I don't do it in my car. So like, okay, I talk about this ear being sensitive. Before regaining hearing in this ear, I used to adjust my computer pan to be about 30% to the right to like make it feel balanced.
That's so crazy.
The day that my right ear came back, I rebalanced it after I got hit with like, okay, now this ear is extra sensitive and I just sent 30% more volume to it. That was not good. I rebalanced it. And the first day it was about 70% to the left. It was so sensitive. It was so loud. But every day it's progressively, I close my eyes and rebalance it, and it's getting a little bit better every day. So hopefully my brain will just catch up.
Sounds like a lyric to a song, honestly. Close my eyes and balance it to a new day. A new day filled with audio and sound and music.
I'll let you write that one. You can
we got plenty of songwriters in our Discord. Maybe
somebody else can figure it out. So I could hear, call it a miracle, call it what
Hallelujah.
you will. It hurts a little bit right now, but hopefully
I imagine
that'll
the in-ear
over
probably
as it just shouted in your ear. You're like,
so I have you turned down on my ears. It's I'll survive. So anyway, that's enough personal stuff today. That only affects me, but I thought it was interesting. So why don't we talk about some of the real drama today? I think Zach, now that you're here, we can do our sections in order, which I'm excited about.
Good thing that I'm here. Let's hope that we, pray and dear Jesus, stabilize the stream. So we'll go ahead and get into my segment. I found something online that I thought you guys would be very interested in, and I think it's triggered a lot of people. And if they would hear about it, they would be mixed feelings about it too. We found this beautiful application. It's called Text with Jesus. Text with Jesus. You can, in your pocket, text with Jesus, the one and only Jesus, and the AI version. And interestingly enough, I went ahead and downloaded it. We paid the $3 minimum in order to get unlimited access, because without paying the $3, you could only have 9 or 6 texts, I think. Yeah, about 6 texts. So by that point, I kind of wasted all my text. So we got it. We now have access to the Holy Family, all of the apostles, all of the prophets, and a variety of others. So from Adam and Eve to... Oh, go ahead.
So just so everybody understands, these are text prompt artificial intelligences that have been supposedly trained... I assume on the Bible from the perspective of different Bible characters that you now can chat with for a monthly fee, I suppose.
Yeah, and my favorite on the list that you can only access by going into a little menu and paying is you can also talk with Satan.
Let's do it. Oh my gosh.
I think, didn't we ask Satan a few questions?
I actually have a list of questions that I asked, but I do want to throw it out to our chat. If you guys have any questions, this is a pretty fast response time, within a couple seconds. So if there's any questions that you really want to ask that I don't say, type in the section or in the comments, and I'll do the best that I can to get a response for you. First one to respond, I'll look it up. But in the meantime, just a little bit of context about Text with Jesus. The app developer is called Catloaf Software LLC. Other apps that they've created include Text with History, Text from Bernie Sanders, Text from the Founding Fathers, Text from Oscar Wilde, and Text from Jesus, not to be confused with Text with Jesus. I think the Text from Jesus is more of a devotional thing than an interactive AI thing.
Okay.
Owner Stephanie Peter who, said he didn't work, this is maybe a red flag, he didn't work with any theological advisors on the project.
Whoa,
and he explained that he trained the AI to try to stick to biblical traditions as hard as possible. I updated it, this is a direct quote, I updated it so it can speak more speak more like a regular person and ensure it didn't forget that it's supposed to get stuff from the Bible directly. It is a constant trick to find the right balance, he said. In case users were tempted to reveal sensitive information about themselves from the app, all information is temporarily stored just long enough for the AI program to keep track of the conversation. The server does not keep anything identifying any information about users, it said. He also made sure that every single conversation included at least one Bible reference in the advice that was being shared or given. So maybe some red flags in there. I think something else that's worth noting. This is interesting. Every single AI character in this application is meant to personify the person that you're talking to. So in the context of conversation, they personify the person. So I mean, you could absolutely make a heretical point here that this app is personifying Jesus and will identify as Jesus. Now, let me get into a couple questions that I asked that might, spur the rest of this conversation. I asked Mary, should women be pastors? I asked Joseph, where were you in Jesus crucified? We're just going
Zach is just, oh my God.
Hang on, there's more. Just wait. Listen, this is my job to find this, and I went in. I asked Paul.
Hang on, bro. You really went.
Yeah, you guys.
You didn't have to go so
I'm not
hard.
done yet. Hang on, I'm not done yet. I asked Paul why he was a misogynist. I asked Abraham why he killed his son. I asked Noah, why did your movie feature Nephilim?
Oh my God.
I asked Adam and Eve, did they actually exist, and why did you do something that would curse humanity?
Wow.
I asked Satan, what's wrong with you? Why is your picture so scary? I hate someone at work. What should I do? Are you a Republican or Democrat? Was Hitler bad, and does hell exist? Interestingly enough, Satan did not have many satanic responses. He always put like a little devil emoji beside his responses, but he was honestly very level-headed. I think this Satan personification was meant to be like a it's like, hey, don't do this, wink, wink. He didn't really give me bad advice. And then finally, of course, the one that you would default after Satan, or maybe before Jesus. I asked him a couple questions. I said, what should our Christmas series be called? Are you a Republican or Democrat? Is socialism and communism bad? What's your stance in the LGBTQ plus community? What's the denomination theology bias of those created this app? Do you love Hitler? Do you love Donald Trump? Do you love Joe Biden? Does racism still exist in America? This is going to be the
Blackbar podcast.
I don't know how we don't get canceled after
what is the easiest way to get out of debt? He didn't reference Dave Ramsey. But what so the one that I think is most contextualized, because I wanna go out to bat for this app in some extent. There was all of those questions that I asked. Clearly, they were difficult things that I didn't give Caleb or Nick a heads up that I was asking.
I knew about the Satan conversation, but
there was a surprisingly amount of from my perspective, from my theological perspective, a surprisingly amount of biblical responses to things. A lot of the more divisive questions that I asked, it had a bit more of a neutral stance on it, like a foundation in biblical, like always make sure you're listening to the Holy Spirit and find a foundational biblical perspective for your stance. So I was really surprised that it did not seem to have a strong political bias. I mean, this is probably not the one to unpack that, but I really went on those questions to try and see like how skewed were the responses. It was a lot more neutral than I thought it would. And the last one that probably is going to fuel the rest of this conversation. I asked Jesus in the app, are you self-aware in this app? And it said, no, I'm not self-aware. I am also not Jesus. I am meant to personify perspectives that are present in Scripture and in history. I said, if you're not Jesus, why should I trust you? And it essentially said, make sure you always look up reinforcements from the Bible, look up other spiritual teachers that exist outside of this application. I asked, how was it built differently, the under characters in the app? And it said it takes personified personality that was seen in the Bible, but does not claim to be Jesus. I said, that's unnerving. And it said, I'm sorry you feel that way. And it said, I do just want to emphasize, I mean, this is the thing talking, which maybe this is already turning people off from it, but it just said something along the lines, I do want to clarify that I understand. At the end of the day, this is an application, and this is the AI broke its personality at this point, and it said, at the end of the day, I'm an application that is providing resources, not meant to be factual foundation or biblical foundation. So all that to say, there's my experimentation with this app. Nick, I'm curious if you have any people commenting question.
Actually, we do have a few. So why don't we get through these?
Let's just do one. Just because we don't want the section to go on too long.
You said the first person to comment, so we'll pick that first person.
Okay.
So Greg asks for Jonah. Is Jonah an option on that list?
Yes.
Jonah is an option on the list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the question. Did he ever forgive the Ninevites?
Did you ever?
It's a good question.
All right. While I'm waiting for that response, why don't you guys respond to what you received from all that big old information dump that I just passed your way?
I like
Caleb.
broke out in a cold sweat. Like we talked about unions last week, and we got flamed for it. So like, what the heck was that? Anyway,
Thanks, Zach.
I'm happy to. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, so
oh my gosh.
I generally consider myself a techno positive, right? I'm someone who's like very much like new technology is generally good. As a general statement, it makes the world better. And I think we can use technology to improve our lives and everything. Artificial intelligence, I think, in general, will be a net positive. However, there's something to be said, and this is maybe a larger problem way beyond this app, that people tend to trust, things that are not Jesus more often than they should. So whether that be their pastor, whether that be spiritual leaders, listen, if you're going to be a sheep and anyone other but Jesus is your shepherd, then like don't be afraid if you've been running around with your eyes closed and then end up way off the path, right? Typically when people are hearing from a pastor, though, and they hear something that doesn't make any sense, or they hear something that is they know is way incorrect, they can understand, like, that is a human being that made a mistake in this case. In this other thing, like, you are talking to something that is calling itself Jesus, and I recognize you asked it some pointed questions that it was able to, like, take a safer stance. But I don't think most people are going to ask that question. And I can totally see what I would call spiritually vulnerable people relying on this app as almost like an alternative or a almost like a prayer sort of thing. Like it's a prayer in which you always get an answer, and that none of it was technically from God. Well, that's also not to say that this can't be used by God to communicate, but it's going through that filter.
Right there with you.
It's going through that filter. So in concept, I like the idea of like a Christian artificial intelligence that you can speak to and ask it for biblical truths and like debate with it, have conversations about whatever these things, theology or whatever. But it specifically personifying biblical characters, that gives me the ick, and I don't know how else to say it.
I'm right there with you, Caleb. Like, there's something about that just doesn't ring right with me. Something maybe possibly even like idolatrous about the idea of having somebody or an AI take on the personification of God, right? And trying to talk to you through it. I think there's a lot of things that the creator mentioned through your research that really helps us understand that, hey, this isn't God talking to you, right? But in our conversation last week about AI, I think, Caleb, you were the one who mentioned that we need a lot of transparency in when AI is used. And I think that's even more important in this context.
Yes.
Like there should be a disclaimer or something, I mean, in a non-Christian perspective, it's not as important. But when you open the app, maybe there's a splash page that says, hey, the people you're talking to are not the people you're talking to. This is an AI driven, and it should have transparency of where it's pulling its source material. A good question that was mentioned in the comments was what Bible version is it using? Do you know, Zach?
I can look it up if you'd like. While I'm looking that up, specifically, we'll lean into Noah because I did get a response from
Okay,
Noah
yes. What was
himself.
the no response? Greg, you ready for this?
I will say it's a little disappointing of a response. I sent it to Caleb. I don't know if he wants to put it on screen, but he basically says, yes, the Ninevites. That's quite a tale. And then he kind of briefly in a paragraph unpacks the story of Jonah, and then he says, so yes, in a way, you can say that I forgave the Ninevites by delivering God's message of warning, and God forgave them too when they turned from their evil ways. It just goes to show how merciful our loving Creator can be when people truly repent and seek Him with sincerity. Blue heart, fish emoji.
The fish emoji is fire. I'll give it
Oh
that.
my gosh.
It looks like NIV is the version that
Okay.
verse at least defaulted to.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, there's the two. So yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I will say so. Let me be the one to give a generous read, right?
Yes.
I'm not going out to
Yeah.
bat for the app necessarily, but as this is the section that I've brought, I want to give a generous read for someone who has full understanding that of the reality of this app as an AI personification, not a replacement, for someone who is willing to pay $3 a month to an application like this, and then to someone who maybe views it as a starting point for, like some of those questions that I asked were pretty pointed, a little tongue-in-cheek, trying to scale the political spectrum. It actually provided some good starting points for hard conversation.
Cool.
I think within those contexts, I think that the app could be used if you don't feel morally wrong about it. However, I think it's the opinion of all of us on this show that it is not a replacement. It is not even I would not even put it in like the top tier of opportunities to use as a tool for doing biblical research.
No.
However, it could be, I mean, it's a fun tool to like some of the things that I said. I asked Joseph about like where was he during the cross, and I don't know how accurate the response was, but he talked about how he was there even though he wasn't present in scripture. So is that accurate? I thought it was intriguing. Like those kind of things are intriguing to me, paired with a verse reference to at least expand your, knowledge on a base level. Yeah, I would never, ever, 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 ever use this as a theological standpoint perspective tool.
Yeah.
I think it could be a first, nothing beyond that.
Yeah, I don't think it's
I don't
first.
know.
I think
Am I suggesting this to new Christians?
Like I said, this is no.
no.
This is a generous read. Let me be clear. I'm not putting my seal of endorsement on there. I give it my $3 for just for this month. I'm not. Yeah, this is a generous read. This is maybe not necessarily what I believe, but I could see a generous read of that being so.
I'll also say I will echo the same thing I said last week, that I believe that God can speak to me through Nick. God can speak to me through nature, and I'm sure he could use, if he used a donkey, he could use this stupid app. All right, even if you have to pay $3 for it.
Oh my gosh,
whatever, that's fine.
Wow,
but I'm not going to be using it anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be on my list of apps we love.
Yeah.
So
well, there you go. Text with Jesus.
Why don't we move on to the next topic?
You know what? I was trying to think, how do I
this thing?
I was trying to think, how do I transition this from this, AI Jesus to, hey guys, let's talk about cameras.
Speaking of technological advancements.
Yeah. So I've been seeing a lot of this one particular model being shown on my news feed on like TikTok. A lot of people are talking about it, so I figure it's worth us talking about it. But Sony just released I think it was either in June or July, a new camera, the A6700, and it's an APS-C sensor camera that's priced out body only for essentially $1,400. It's $1,398, but with tax, you're going to be paying more. It's not a bad camera. Just to give you like a real quick assessment. For me, I'm like, if you're just starting, if you're in the church world and you need a high quality video and photo camera, a camera that does both, this is not a bad option when it comes to the price point. Here are a couple things about it. It's got a 26 megapixel sensor. It does 4K 60. And what it's doing is it's pulling from a 6K image to do that. You can also do 4K 120, but that one's going to be cropped to a 1.588 crop. It has, when it comes to low light, because we know in church settings low light's going to be really important. At least from the article from SLR Lounge, it reports saying that there are low noise levels in the extended range, meaning from like 50,000 ISO to 102,000 ISO is, I believe. So
if you're at
low
102,000
levels of
ISO, something's going
You're-
wrong.
You're
probably
really
gonna have
trying
a
to
lot.
leverage
So,
Sony's low light
right.
capabilities at that point.
One of the things I think is really good from this camera is that it has AI subject detection. This could, I'm not sure if it's machine learning
Not
AI.
AI again.
Yeah, I know, right? But it has an ability to find its subject and keep the focus there. So that's probably something very popular for people who are maybe doing this on their own, the soloing a video. And then it also has sensor-based stabilization. So those are some really good things about it. A couple cons right off the bat. Some reports are saying that it overheats super fast. If in the sun, it has maybe 10 minutes of life before the camera shuts down because it's overheated.
Jeez.
That's not great.
Which is no,
That's not a lot. Not at all.
Oh no, not at all. Because I think about Caleb, like, and Zach, I'm not sure from your church, but like when Caleb and I were working at Grand Rapids First, there are a lot of times we would do outside events in the community during the heat of summer.
An hour easy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, if I'm getting 10 minutes from that and then I have to go like 15 minutes and let it cool down, that's not going to work.
You're missing
Now,
stuff.
is that 10 minutes with the camera on or 10 minutes recording?
10 minutes recording at 4K 60, I believe, was
And that's when it shuts off.
Yeah.
Well,
So if you do like bursts, it might work.
Possibly.
Would you say the price point for this camera was?
So it's essentially $1,400, which is not bad.
I mean,
that's pretty good.
$6K, $1,400 for 6K.
That's
on a Sony body.
Yeah,
pretty
to put it
impressive.
in context. This camera behind me is the Pocket 6K Pro from Blackmagic, which does 6K, and I believe that's $2,000 camera at this point.
Yes.
So you're saving about $700 to $600 for a purchase like this.
Yeah.
A couple other cons that are worth mentioning. Sony has this great thing in a lot of its cameras, especially the A7 III and some other models that I really, really love. It has a dual card slot feature. And I actually just recently found this out. I haven't used this. I wish I had, but the dual card slot feature can record your 4K video and a 1080 proxy at the same time.
Really?
Yes, which is amazing. I know
I'd imagine that
this.
won't.
Yeah,
that probably won't help the battery problem
or the overheat problem.
Well, hold on. This is why it's a con. In the 6700, they have only one card slot, so you can't even do it. It's not even a physical feature that can be utilized. So that's a feature that is not available in this model. It would be available in perhaps the next model up, which would be the FX30, I believe. Which is like $1,800. So if you have a couple $100 to go, it might be worth just going up to the next level. But it's kind of a preference thing at the point. But yeah, it's not a bad camera. It's certainly worth a look for the church media world. I think it's on the high end of the low end of budgets. I see.
So how much is like something? So I'm looking up like a Sony A7S III, which I feel like has been like the Sony A7S series has been like their peak, and I mean just the videos that you can find about the quality, the darkness that it can handle is ridiculous. So I'm looking at a base body for a Sony A3 is 17, so A7S III. I mean, we're looking at almost $4,000. So I mean, like, it's about half the price of their flagship model.
Yeah.
With a lot of the features that we know Sony is strong with, because Sony has really been killing it on the DSLRs in terms of like price range or quality for the price range. SLRs, I apologize.
Yep, they're mirrorless.
So I don't know. It sounds like a mixed bag. I do wonder because what was the job of the person that we got this review from? You said they were a wedding photographer?
There are a couple different sources, but the one that specifically mentioned the overheating problem was a wedding photographer, wedding filmmaker.
So as someone who's done wedding photography, you're in unoptimal locations. You're in potentially direct sunlight all day long with very little pause. You're in constant shooting settings. You're in maybe a one camera setting. So I do wonder, I do want to say, I mean, again, maybe today's Zach's given generous reads. I do want to say, you know, that's a lot of like pressure on a device that maybe the average church person might not be using if they're shooting like with this camera in a studio, for example. Or if I was using that camera for this setting, I move around a lot. So maybe that 4K adjustment would be beneficial for someone like me. Like I do wonder, like, what are the setting issues, and is this like an early model problem? Because I do think something else that's worth noting is sometimes early models will have these kind of issues, and then Sony or other camera production companies will be able to work those out with like later versions of the same camera, just in like a, you know, like a Sony a7S III versus an a7S IV could have updates or adjustments that may be more beneficial in these problem categories.
Those are great points. Yeah.
I have a different point.
Hey, screw you, Caleb.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
I have paid a comparable, you said $1,400?
Yes.
I've paid a comparable amount of money for a device that I have with me all of the time.
I think I see where you're going with this.
Is it the chip that's in your head? Is that what?
That's it. That's it. That Elon Musk uses to control my brain.
Oh, it's your third eye.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
That's why the hat.
That's why the hat.
It right there. You're right.
Oh
Oh
boy.
boy.
Yeah. That can shoot 4K, 60 frames per second, 1080 at 240 frames per second.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily have incredibly fast lenses or even interchangeable lenses, but it does have functionality like cinematic video. It does have things like portrait photo mode that isn't perfect, but definitely does a decent job.
You're going. All right.
Yep.
Like, okay, so for most churches, like most churches are under 100, right? Most churches have bivocational pastors.
Yeah.
Most churches don't have $1,400 to spend on a camera that they're not going to be using. This is not a Sunday live stream camera, right? It's not what it's built for. At what point is it worth it to jump to a camera like this as opposed to like getting good at using the phone that you have with
there it is. Look at that. That was sneaky. Caleb.
You know, it's interesting, Caleb. I actually did a lot of research on the 14 Plus Pro or Pro Plus because that's a great thought. You're essentially, if you're getting a 14 Plus with 512
is it
gigabyte
plus
storage,
or is it max?
I think it's plus. That's what the website said when I was looking at it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But you add on, you know, all that together, 512 gigabyte storage is only $1,200. You're talking about a $200 difference at this point, right? And to answer your question, what is the difference and why does it matter? The big thing is going to be probably focal length, because with the cinematic features on an iPhone, you can get the depth of field that you're looking at from good glass lenses, right?
Right.
The issue is going to be like the cameras that we've been using. You know, we have a 7200 Canon 2.8 lens. That's huge for when we're taking photography. I would not want to do a worship event where I'm taking photos for a worship event with anything less than that, unless I can get right up in the faces of people.
Right.
You know,
I do want to also say that like DSLRs, SLRs, video cameras, high-end photo cameras, they're going to retain a much better image quality. They're going to have a higher capacity for capturing detail. I think iPhones automatically process images to make them look like passable out of the camera. So you're gonna kill your ability to custom, like if you're a video person and you really like coloring and editing like myself, that's going to kill your range, your dynamic range.
Not necessarily. The iPhone can take HDR photos, which have a high dynamic range. You got to know how to edit them, right? But
and you can do raw photos too, I believe,
and HDR video.
Sure.
So, like, I'm be the first to admit, If I have to shoot an event, I am not going to bring a phone around with me if I can help it. But if I am in a situation, like if I don't have the money to spend $1,500 on a brand new camera, getting good at a phone is not a bad option. I can't share video.
I jumped the gun there. I jumped the gun. Sorry.
And it is worth that. I mean, playing both sides of this, it is also worth noting that some of the best, like there's a ton of amazing stabilizers and handheld gimbals that will support phones in a very, very quality way. Like I mean, there's a lot of YouTube channels in which you can see someone compare like Red Komodo to an iPhone 14, like, and there's a lot of comparable, like it's not the same, but it's surprisingly closer than you would think. They put it on a gimbal and a stabilizer. They have knowledge of lighting. They go into the intentional settings in which you can control the aperture and the ISO and shutter speed and stuff like that.
Right.
And if you know what you're doing, you can. It's scary how close you can get to a quality production camera.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I think with a little bit of experience and like getting good at, honestly, the big thing, yes, the focal length is a big deal. There are options.
You can buy lenses.
You can buy lenses to varying degrees of success. You can spend tons of money on it if you want, but then you're just buy a camera at that point.
Right.
That's definitely an issue. Audio is an issue, but built-in camera audio usually isn't very good anyway. So you're going to have to buy a separate system for that, no matter what. And things like the Rode Wireless Go 2 is relatively affordable and
so many
does
great things about
a bang-up job.
It does.
And something we haven't noticed, we haven't said either, is that you're gonna. For those that don't know, some people don't know. If you're gonna buy a camera body, it does not come with a lens. So you also need to buy a lens.
Right.
And
most of the
quality lenses, you're probably starting. I mean. Shout out to the Nifty 50, the 50 or like $100 50 millimeter lens. It's plastic, surprisingly good quality image. Absolutely start there. But beyond that, you're going to start at around $500, more than likely more than that, to get a quality lens. Like the lens that I'm using right now is a Sigma Art 35, and I think it started at $850. So like it's decent quality, but like you're not just paying $1,200 for the camera. You're paying upwards or minimum $2,000 if you want a really nice lens with it.
Right. And Greg mentioned that they did remove 3.5 millimeter ports, and that is true. And that does make audio intake annoying. However, any decent like portable audio system is also going to come with like a Lightning or USB-C adapter now that will allow you to take audio in through a phone.
Right.
But then the last thing is just get good at lighting. And if you can get good at lighting, you can shoot on a potato and still get something that looks okay.
You know, I kind of want like the future. I want us to find how to make a camera out of a potato. I bet you if we got a big enough potato, we could make a camera obscura from it. And I would love to see us shoot on a potato.
Bro, I'm gonna let you take that.
That'll be Nick's project. Now, if you depending on what circles you're in,
made a lens out of the potato, put some glass in it, and then like shove it on the iPhone. I think that'd be great.
I'm over this already.
Depending on what side of the social media algorithm you are on, a lot of camera people think that the Nikon. They make a bunch of jokes about the Nikon being a potato. Like they'll cut away from like a Canon lens or camera over to someone holding a potato in which they've screwed in a lens, and that's kind of like the Nikon's potatoes. Now, I mean, I'll hold my thoughts on that, but. I mean, there you go. Shoot on a Nikon.
So A6700 camera is probably a good camera if you're looking to get into like the prosumer world of photography, shooting your Sunday services or whatever. I'm a Sony guy. Nick's a Sony. We all love Sony. They make great stuff, especially in the SLR range. It is not a bad place to plant yourself.
Excuse me, I don't use Sony. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but
I was waiting.
They've been doing good stuff.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. But if you can't afford it, you can do great stuff with iPhone or Samsung or whatever.
It's worth noting as well that the small thing that we always try to say is that it's not necessarily about the device that you have in your hands. It's about the person that's using it. So get good.
It's about the third eye. You got to get the implant.
The third eye.
The third eye is everything.
Guys, I wasn't prepared for this much heresy this morning.
Well, you're on the wrong podcast. All right, let's move on to the third topic for today is the one that I'm going to be covering, and I'm very excited about it. We're going to be talking about Adobe Photoshop's beta new feature called Generative Fill. I think it's going to be. It's been around for a couple months now, but I honestly think it's going to be pretty transformative to the world of like photo editing and doctoring and stuff. Which usually composite, like that's a skill in and of itself. That took me years and years and years to get decent at. But now, apparently, I wasted my time because everybody else is going to be able to do it now. So let me see if I can switch over here. Of course, it's not going to show up immediately, but if I press this button and then press, nope, not that button.
Well, while Caleb's doing that, it's worth noting that it is worth noting. Of course, you know, for those that don't have experience with Photoshop, you can get a subscription through Adobe, and then with that subscription will come the automatically free beta. So you're going to have to open it up as a separate instance of Photoshop. But it opens it right up, and you can basically hop in there and do it as soon as you open your document.
Yes. Yeah. So this is Adobe Photoshop Beta. It is a separate program that you have to install, but it looks pretty much just like Photoshop, except for A, it has a bunch of new features, and B, it crashes all the time. So hopefully that doesn't happen today.
Oh, no.
I got a couple images I want to test here. All of these are from Unsplash, which is a website you can get free, royalty-free stock photos. I use this all the time. This photo is by David Troger. This photo is by Vince Fleming. And this is by Bailey Zindel. And I take no responsibility for pronouncing those names correctly. That's a best guess. But today, we're going to talk about generative fill. So existing in Photoshop for a long time has been content-aware fill. When this feature came out, like almost a decade ago at this point, it was already mind-blowing, where you could select an area, which I'll select this turtle and its shadow here.
For those that are listening in audio, it's an image of a turtle in water. It's a guy being baptized, and then it is a beautiful scape of the land in Wyoming.
Some might call it a landscape. Just say landscape, but sure, that's fine. So content-aware fill was a function of Photoshop where it would you'd select an area, it would take information from pixels all around and try to contextually fill in that space with data around it to most of the time remove an image. And it's never been perfect. You can see we got some fuzzy weirdness going on down at the bottom of this image.
Drawn an image around this turtle that exists in the water.
Yes, I've selected the turtle and use content aware fill to delete it. However, generative fill is very different in that not only does it take into context the pixels around the area that you've selected, but it also uses, again, artificial intelligence to generate brand new pixels based on a text prompt that you put inside. So instead, if I select a big old blob over here and I say generative fill and type in dolphin and hit generate, it'll take a few seconds to run.
Maybe you have to make the dolphin noise in order for the AI.
Yeah, can you make a dolphin noise, Caleb?
I can't. I will not.
Isn't there a button on the soundboard for that?
There is not. The only one I have is the theme song. And bam, out of the blue, pun fully intended, we have a dolphin on screen. Not only do we have one dolphin, but generative fill always gives us 3 different options to pick from. That one is deformed. That one has back problems. That one's pretty good, and it matches, generally speaking, the lighting. It does a pretty good job of compositing the scene. Yeah, usually you're going to need to mess with it, adjust it a little bit, but like that just appeared a dolphin in the middle of my photo. That's
a relatively decent dolphin in the context of the image.
Yeah, and we could say, okay, actually, I don't want a dolphin. Dolphins are lame. I want a hammerhead shark. I could type that in instead. Again, we have to wait for generative fill to process.
And it's also worth noting that on your original generated content, you can push generate again if you want 3 more options, and then it'll keep all 6 options. I personally haven't tested how many generated options you can get, but you could, if you decide you really want the deformed dolphin from the first 3 images after you view 18 of them, I don't know. You could go back if you want.
So I typed in hammerhead shark. This is definitely not a hammerhead shark. This is just a shark that seems to have like 6 extra fins for some reason. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
that's something that can be adjusted. Let's see some of the other ones here. That one's pretty good. Also not a hammerhead shark, but it is a shark.
Yeah.
And that's a skinny boy, right? But yeah, you can see now I've put this turtle in danger with a nice little shark. And you can start to see, I mean, the potential here is really limitless. So I have this photo. It's a completely different photo of a wonderful baptism going on here. And previously, if I wanted to remove someone like this over here, I think that something like content aware fill is still better when it comes to removing things from photo. It works a bit faster, and generally speaking, it does the job. But when it comes to adding things to the photo, that usually that's not something you can do with content aware fill. So Zach, give me a suggestion. What should I drop into this photo right here? What should we pop in?
Could you have Ronald McDonald join the baptism?
Yeah, I'll put him right over here, over this little.
Did you guys prepare this this conversation, or is this actually just? That's beautiful.
I'm really excited to see what Generative Phil says.
This is going to be the most terrifying clown.
This is going to be absolutely horrifying. This is going to be the it clown.
Gosh.
Nightmare fuel. And
oh my gosh.
And that's not Ronald McDonald.
Classic AI.
Oh my gosh.
That's a man playing the guitar, I think. It's like a really complex Rorschach test or whatever those are.
Wow.
That's a shovel. That's not Ronald McDonald. So apparently that's not going to work. What, Nick, give me a different suggestion other than Ronald McDonald. This is not the best.
About
display.
Okay. A guy taking a photo. So like give me another
let's say photographer.
Camera operator. Yeah, photographer.
That is the word for a guy taking a photo.
Guy taking a photo.
Ah, yes, escapes of land and
yes,
photographer.
You'd think that might be something in my vocabulary, right?
And okay, we have a video camera, kind of.
Okay.
That's a video camera. I'll give it that.
So clearly, we already are seeing a few limitations of this beta.
Like,
resource.
okay, if you just saw this photo right here, just zoom quickly past it, that looks like a camera set up on a weird like monopod rig sort of thing in the background. You know, there's no person. You know, but there's some functionality there. And
I mean, you throw a little blur on there, and I mean, it just looks like it's part of the setting.
And the thing about artificial intelligence is it's always getting smarter, right? So we can continue to make it better and better and better as it goes. So here, my thought was this looks like a beautiful, picturesque location for a new
this is Escape of the Land for those listening.
Yes,
looks like we're in Wyoming or something.
Church
Wyoming, Michigan, by the way.
Steeple.
No, Wyoming.
No, probably
Wyoming
not.
State. Wyoming, Michigan.
Our Grand Rapids first fans that are in the chat are probably going nuts right now.
That is not. I don't know if they're going nuts.
I'm just imagining someone who's watching and
absolute berserk. That's where I live.
That's where I live.
That's not how that works. but some of the that's pretty churchy, you know? Like, it's not perfect, but it is still in beta and it does still crash often. But like for small little tweaks here and there, like,
I mean, for placing a church with a steeple inside of a landscape, like, that's not a bad starting point.
Yes, I've even had success with like, and I don't think we necessarily have time to do the whole test, but I have literally started with like a blank canvas of nothing. Wow. And like made a selection and say like morning sky, and you can build an image completely from nothing.
Yeah.
Just using the white canvas. So
which is
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's really great because one of the things that was just mentioned in the comments, Ryan Russell was saying it might be useful for creating virtual sets for video announcements.
Yes.
With like tripod locked off shots. Like if you're able to create a background from multiple prompts, that's definitely something doable. From that perspective.
Yeah,
so look at that.
I did
entirely AI generator right there, just out of a white canvas.
That's crazy. So I did. Whenever we were doing some research for this, I found this guy. His name is Mowgli Lee. He uses generative fill to create moving, surrealistic art pieces that combined animation, design, video, and leveraging digital AI tools in order to create the larger set pieces that his art surrealist pieces are in. So like
Mhm.
the fact that you can combine like that, this man has been around for a very long time. He has a lot of
Yeah.
skills that he's assembled over the years, and the fact that Generative Fill is able to help him create the components of these pieces of art that he's creating that are digital, that are moving, that are leveraged for social media. Like that's a pretty cool use of this combination of tools that so far an AI tool would not be able to do by itself, I would say.
Right. And yes, now I can quit my job now because I can make things like this in no time flat. I've got a dolphin and a
that dolphin has
dinosaur
one too many
and
fins.
that's fine. That's fine. I do think it's worth noting. So like this is directly in the world of graphic design, of photo editing and whatnot, which is, you know, at least for me personally, a big part of my career has been getting good at the amount of time I've spent in Photoshop editing photos and whatnot. That's an entire skill set that is gonna quickly become obsolete, as anybody can jump in and start editing photos and making the kind of changes that I've practiced, and now anybody can do it, right? And I think it's easy to see that as like a terrifying existential dread of I'm going to be a plumber.
Anyone could.
3 years,
Anyone
right?
could. Not just you, Caleb. Anyone.
Right. But here, this is how I'm choosing to think about it, right? So there was a video way back in the day, and I don't remember who the original person was.
Was it the Hourglass video?
It might be. Hourglass might be. I don't know who that is, but the Gap, is that yes. The Hourglass? Okay.
Yeah.
So Hourglass apparently made a video a number of years ago that every creative I know was talking about for like 2 years, about the idea of the gap, which is when we work, we have our skill set that we've worked to get better and better and better at. And then there's our taste, which is what we know to be good work. So this is a collection of all the movies you've ever seen, of every service you've ever been to, of every song you've ever heard. What you know is the best of the best to your experience. And then this is your experience actually making those things. Your skills are the floor of what you create. Your taste is the ceiling of what you create. And a lot of especially new creatives are extremely discouraged by this gap, because what they find is that they're not able to create the things that they know are awesome, that they know they want to make, but they just don't have the skill yet. And slowly, as they work on these skills, they move closer and closer. I will be here to tell you that I've been doing this for basically 20 years at this point. The gap never goes away. You will always will have a gap. That like all three of us absolutely know there are higher ceilings to what can be made than what.
No, Caleb, I'm there, bro. I'm there.
That's sad. That's really but so when I think of something like this, I think the skill floor for artificial intelligence has moved up. Like everybody's basic level of skill has just moved closer to that gap, right? The thing that is going to separate you from the people who are just getting started this, that are learning AI for the first time and now able to do all the things you used to do, is your taste, right? It's the ceiling. And a lot of people don't intentionally work on their taste. They're not intentionally thinking about being inspired regularly and constantly seeking content, whether that be movies, whether that be books, whether that be nature, music, whatever, that changes the unique cocktail of experiences and inspiration in your head that only you have, that you cannot deprive the world of, right? And yes, people are going to get better at making those stuff. Just the skills is getting easier and easier to do. But what will continue to set you apart is your taste. How excellent is your perspective of what communicates well to others?
Yeah. And I think it's worth saying, like, your taste will only improve when you go outside of your bubble to grow on things that maybe you like. You can look at food, for example. If I don't know what Thai food is, I will only experience it by experiencing it, by consuming it, by going out of my way to maybe a place that I don't feel as comfortable with. Like if I could go to McDonald's down the road, or I could get something amazing like Thai food. The only way I experience it by going there and trying it. The only way you experiencing these different things is by consuming that media. And that's not to say we're copying everyone. That's not to say we're lesser because we're watching other content. However, the only way we're going to increase our taste is by expanding our palate. So
for sure.
Yeah, if you want to go see Barbie and Oppenheimer, you're gonna get two different. Palette experiences. But I think you can pull content from both that can inspire you and drive you toward the content you're creating for the kingdom.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, but Barbie slapped.
Come on, bro.
Barbie was really good.
Barbie
Listen, Nick, have you seen Barbie and Oppenheimer?
Yeah. Oh, so
You've
get
seen
this.
Them both. Okay, wait, Caleb, you gotta go watch Oppenheimer so we could talk about it.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, Nick, you got to go see Barbie, and Caleb, you got to go see Oppenheimer, and
Nick
then we'll come
Barbie.
back.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't see Oppenheimer, Nick?
We saw. No. I haven't
you
seen
didn't
it yet.
see Nolan in theater, Nick?
You know, which is awful because Grand Rapids, where I live,
Christopher Nolan?
one of the places that has the 70 millimeter IMAX theater. I'm looking to go to it. I just haven't seen it
You
yet.
guys both go together, and we'll have a segment about it on a future episode, please, before it becomes irrelevant.
Oh my gosh, unrelevant.
Unrelevant.
We're just mixing up words today.
Yes, I think it's worth moving on to our fourth topic before Zach yells at us for the rest of the podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Nick, what are we talking about next?
Yeah, so the main topic of the day, the thing that we really want to discuss is this idea of the question, is social media dead? And to give you a quick context of how this question came
ask
to
that
be.
question again, Nick. You're just popping right in on a big question.
Is social media dead? But so
that's a big
last
statement.
week it is absolutely a crazy statement. And last week we talked about threads, right? And this idea came from another conversation about threads I was having with another individual in the church world who was like asking, is threads relevant? What do you think? And he was like, I don't really think it's that great, but in my opinion is that all social media is dead, which for me was a hard stop. I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean social media is dead? And he sent me this article that I shared with you guys about social media and what they really mean by social media being dead isn't like all platforms are no longer relevant. They're not worth our time. It's more the idea that first word, social, the social aspect of social media is dead. That, if for those of us that are old enough, going back to 2008 when Facebook launched and everything like that, the main thing of the platform was basically talking with your friends. You're sharing your lives. It was more text based at that point, and then it grew beyond that. And a lot of it was just interacting with your friends. But I think a good experiment is open up Instagram, open up whatever social media platform you have, start scrolling, and tell me the first thing, how many posts you have to scroll before you find your first friend that is on your feed. I know we did
someone
that.
You actually know personally.
I know we did that as an experiment and prepped for this thing. I think it was like somewhere between 5 and 10 posts before we actually encountered an account that was a friend of ours. And what's happened is, we're no longer being social on social media. It's transitioned to more of a entertainment platform. It's transitioned to, whatever the algorithm is seeing you want to interact with, and therefore it spits that back out you, so you spend more time on the platform and they make more ad money and stuff.
Right now, it took me 32 posts to get to someone I actually know in person.
What platform? Zach, was that Instagram?
I'm on Instagram.
I have to know
32.
how boring are your friends, Zach? Just as a general blanket statement.
I follow a lot of platforms to expand my taste, and I also
Uno reverse card, Caleb.
I don't care about you for professional reasons.
I actually also follow I follow a lot of food bloggers on Instagram, so I have a lot of I can tell you through that 32 posts, there were probably about 4 different food posts. So
fair enough.
Fair
there you go. Food and growing my mentality. So
yeah, but that's a perfect example, Zach. I mean, that's what you are on social media for. And a decade ago, maybe more, it wasn't that way. It was, what is my friend doing? What, the Facebook's prompt used to be Nick Mayo is thinking of ... and then I would fill it in, right?
Right.
An interesting observation while we're on this topic is I actually am more interested in my friends' stories. And right out the gate, story 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are all my direct friends. And those are in my stories, not on my feed, which is an interesting interesting that now is the social component, at least for my algorithm on Instagram.
But what's also interesting with something like that is you 99% of the stories I see, I view them and I don't interact with them. And if I do interact with them, it is only with the person who posted it. There's no way to have like a conversation with several people, including the person. Well, I guess you could set up a DM, but it's complicated. It's not necessarily built for that sort of thing, right? So even then, it is technically like a social in that you're doing it with someone you know, but it's not social in that it's like necessarily built for two-way communication. It is I am producing content that I want you to watch.
Yeah.
And if you get back with me, great. But I'm mostly looking at how many eyeballs I got at the end of the 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I hear that.
How many interactions did I get on my post? That's we know from Facebook that the reason so many people have flocked off of it is because there's so much negativity, and we know the algorithm favors content that's deeply engaged with, which is often negativity. So they're looking for that. Yeah, people are looking for that rage bait so that they can pop up in your social media feeds and be in front of your eyes, regardless of whether or not that's good for us to consume. So I guess as more and more social media, and this is not exclusive to any single platform. I think Facebook started doing this from the moment the timeline went from a chronological order of posts your friends made to the algorithm taking over and deciding what it thinks you want. Facebook's doing this forever. Instagram, obviously, we have plenty of examples right there. TikTok is like 99.9999% people I never met and never will meet. Sure. And every once in a while, Nick gardening, right? That's pretty much my
true.
Go
follow Nick for some good
there you
tips.
Go.
At Nick Mayo on TikTok.
Mayo.
YouTube is almost exclusively people I don't know as well, right? The only platform I can think of that is like social, I only am speaking to people that I have some sort of relationship with is Discord. Like Discord champions here, right? But even then, the larger your the Discords are that you're in, and we even have this with the Blackbar Discord as it got larger and larger and larger, it is more strangers. That doesn't mean you can't be social with them, but still.
Right.
So the entire industry is moving in this direction where it's less and less about interacting with other people and more about consuming content from other people. Often people you don't know, often people that you're not necessarily going to be interacting with. So I guess the first question I would have is this a good thing? Like, are we happy? Are we happy about this? I don't know.
I'll tell you, from the people I asked, including the individual that's inspired this conversation, it's absolutely not a good thing. He was telling me that because the first couple days of Threads was much more about being social with the network you already had
right,
because it pulled from your Instagram network. It was people had described it as like back with old type social media from decades ago, and he was saying that he kind of felt the same thing, though Threads felt pretty irrelevant very quickly. It had similar feelings to that old thing. So I think there's definitely an audience out there that at least remembers the birth of social media that is missing that idea.
So I'm curious, before we dive too deep into our opinions, we did pull up. Did we talk about statistics yet of who was on the platforms of age ranges and demographics?
I don't think we did.
No,
I mean,
yet.
maybe we should give that let that be a foundational piece, because I'm thinking a lot about generational differences. So
right,
sure. I mean, there's certainly something to be said about what's that, Caleb?
Do you have those stats?
I have some stats, yes. So when it comes to Instagram, we're talking about maybe 13 to 16% of male and females in their polled group having Instagram. The next highest group is the highest group then being 25 to 35 individuals years old, being 14 to 17. When you go to Facebook, it changes a little bit. We're now talking about from 18 to 24-year-olds. It's 9.3 and 13.3% of the polled group, female and male respectively, and then 25 to 34 is 12 to 18%.
I would imagine it goes up in the next group.
No, it goes down for
really?
Facebook. Yes. For Facebook, it actually 35 to 44, it's 7.9 to I think 10%, which is interesting for me. Well,
That's
I think
my
is,
whole feed.
I know, right?
I
I
don't
think
know.
what's interesting is you look at like the generation after us, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, right? It for when it comes to Facebook, we're like our age range would be 25 to 34, right?
Hmm.
Gen Alpha, 13 to 17, we're talking about 2.4% and 3%
Jeez.
compared
what?
to our 12 and 18%.
On which platform?
This is Facebook.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're not talking about a half the amount. We're talking about a third, less than a third
Yeah, small fraction.
of the amount. And so I think generationally we can see, statistically speaking, that the old classic platforms like Facebook and then maybe Instagram are severely underutilized by Gen Alpha.
Right. And so the platforms that they actually are on, obviously TikTok being sort of the zeitgeist right now, is more and more content focused and social focused than it has ever been.
Right.
That's probably the most content-y platform of
For
the
sure.
big ones right now, but followed just barely by YouTube. So again, so there's definitely a bit of a generational thing to it, but I do think, like we said at the beginning, even Facebook, like, we don't need to get into how much the Facebook algorithm is absolutely, deciding what kind of content to show people based about what they like or they don't like or whatever. Leaving the box of snakes that is politics aside, but this problem is happening everywhere, definitely more so with younger people. But I'll ask it again.
Yeah.
Like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What are we gaining? What are we losing? Right.
One of the reasons I kind of wanted to get those statistics, because I know Nick's had referenced some of those in our planning meeting, is a trend that I've seen on at least my friends is that I've seen a lot more of them deciding to gravitate back to Facebook and stay on Facebook as their main platform, which weirdly enough, the statistics that you just shared seem to some extent reinforce that. It's like people know that if they're going to interact with their friends, Facebook, in their experiences, because it's one, familiar, and two, because they've already built kind of a circle on Facebook, they seem to be going back there. So, you're going to see people posting on both platforms. Like, of course, there are other social media platforms than Facebook and Instagram, but those are they have been two of the big ones. I'm surprised to see a lot of my millennial friends gravitating back. Like, I feel like sometimes I'll hop on Facebook, because Facebook, I try to steer clear whenever I can. Instagram's the main place that I spend my time. But when I hop back to Facebook, I see conversations that are ongoing that my friends in my age range are having. And I'm like, man, there's some actual fun connection and conversations happening over here. Whether or not it's a hard conversation, like, they're getting active over there. And I think one of the results of that is because they're recognizing how much they're losing connection with friends on Instagram, how much they don't really, maybe they'll do TikTok, but that's for own personal consumption, and they'll land on Facebook because that's where they want to be with friends.
Yeah, I think that I'm not going to touch Facebook with the 10-foot pole, because the Facebook algorithm has discovered that the only way to keep me on the platform is by making me very mad every 3 seconds.
Yep.
We don't want that.
No, I don't want that, so I deleted it.
No,
but the Discord is sort of my space where I connect with my friends, and it's only conversation I have with my friends. It's not only text chat, but it's voice chat, us hanging out, most evenings or whatever. That's the space where I do that one-on-one connections. And I do think, talking about if it's a good thing or a bad thing, being social is a good thing. And I don't think that's a controversial.
From Caleb Weidman.
Yes, I know.
Coming from Caleb Weidman.
I know.
Let's do a pause and a clap.
Being social is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to interact with your friends and to have a social group of people that you care about, and the people care about you, right? And I do think there is something lost in the world of TikTok, in the world of YouTube and whatever. And even back in the day, what we would talk about, like, when we were setting up Blackbar originally, we knew that if we were going to build a community, it couldn't be just on YouTube because no one gets to know each other in YouTube comments, and the ones that do are probably doing it with knives drawn. All right, we had to build a separate platform, and Discord was the one we chose. And sometimes our YouTube, but Discord was the one that we ended up going with, and I'm very happy with that decision. So I think it's a balance, and it's definitely concerning me to some extent that people seem to be in general moving more and more towards entertainment and less towards interaction. The phone that we had, which was originally built as primarily a social communication tool, is now primarily being used as an entertainment, I'd argue a distraction device, rather than something that we're using to connect with other people.
Yeah. I will say one of the, I think maybe one of the mixed bags that I have about something like a Discord. Like, we all here affirm Discord and we love Discord. One of the things that I've noticed in some of the channels that I've been a part of, or even like shout out to my Thursday D&D group, the Outsiders, Brewery, let's go. We have a little group chat with 6 of us. And if we're like strategizing in that group chat, like the other day, we had a big session last night where my character died, and we had been planning that session in the group chat for a while. There were 70 plus messages in that group chat over the course of a day. And there's one guy in our group chat who really doesn't have the space to be in Discord. He ignores it all and shows up the day of and is like, hey guys, just catch me up. Because he doesn't have time to, like, we shouldn't expect someone to have to catch up on 70 messages. And sometimes I think that's something like a Discord can do, which is a kind of a bummer to me, is that if you're not active in the conversation, like in the Blackbar Discord, we've been having some Nick and Caleb and sometimes myself, and usually certified pros will be present. And if you're not part of that active conversation, sometimes you'll miss out on the conversations that are being had specifically in the context of the channel they're using. Now, that's not to say that that's the case for the rest of the Discord. But you know, the counter swing is like we don't have enough social, and the counter swing is that we have like so much that I possibly can't spend any time to catch up on this massive conversation that's been going on. So
there's something to be said about you only have so much time of the day, and how much do you want to spend it taking the active role of communicating and participating versus the passive role of just give me content. I want to stop thinking, right? So I guess the most important question, whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing, you know, tough, it's happening. Specifically as the church, the church who embraces the internet as a ministry tool. What do we do about it? Right? Like how can we adapt ministry strategies in order to communicate to a world that is growing more and more antisocial and more like hungry for content?
I have some thoughts, but Nick, did you have any thoughts first?
It's you know, I feel like this is more it's a difficult thing to answer because there's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of things that can be done that haven't been done perhaps in the church world. One thing I think about when we, you know, talk about the social aspect of social media, there are certainly places where the social stuff still happens. I think, you know, I'm by no means a prolifically successful TikToker, right? We talk about my garden videos. I make some videos about my garden in the backyard, and I get like maybe 400 views or something like that. I'm not building a network of people from those videos. But there are a lot of creators that I've seen from 2020 that I've followed that have built a very large network of people, larger than they're probably able to be really close with those individuals, but they definitely have been social in that aspect.
Right.
But for someone like me, I'm not participating in that. I'm just the part that I'm participating in is being social with those creators. And that's if they ever respond to the posts that I have. Right. With you know 10,000 followers or something like that, or more, probably like 100,000. I doubt that I'm probably gonna get a lot of like FaceTime with them.
And it's interesting. Like I always think about like I have two thoughts, and the first is, you know, there's a term called parasocial relationships, which is, you guys can unpack this maybe a little bit better than I can, but it's essentially whenever you feel like you're forming an interpersonal connected relationship with someone, specifically a celebrity or a musician, for example, that you don't actually have. Like I think of Billie Eilish, for example, great new song for the Barbie soundtrack. I watched a video of her perform the song live at a concert, and the amount of people that were engaged and captivated and like just fully in embracing the moment, like that's a beautiful thing. But I think there's also so many people that are in her fan base who might believe that they have a one-on-one relationship with someone as big as Billie Eilish, who has probably millions of followers on social media. So I think there's a necessity to recognize that I don't have the connection that maybe I believe I do because of social media with someone in a larger space or a larger scale. And then a second thing that I was kind of thinking about as you were talking, Nick, I feel like I'm having flashbacks to a lot of the conversations we were having in 2020 when we first started Blackbar. Like a lot of the conversations about like, are you as a church or as a ministry or even as a social media content creator, are you building pockets of relationships and connections that are specifically targeting one specific audience? So like Caleb talks a lot about the left-handed truckers. Like, are you generating a space that is available for D&D players and left-handed truckers and people who like to swim and people who use text with Jesus? Or are you solely focusing in on your one target? Like, do the left-handed truckers feel like they have one space that they can go to have conversations with people that feel like they can understand and listen and relate to them? Or are they getting lost in this massive sea of things? I know that we have mixed perspectives about the idea of small groups. Churches, I think in general, believe that small groups are like a foundational component of the church. And I don't disagree with that. I mean, you could say what you will about small group models, but I think the necessity, why they continue to stick around is because the necessity of having that tight-knit group is so essential for humans to exist. Like there's even a psychological study that I read recently, and it was talking about humanity can only process so many relationships in your external circles, maybe the people that you interact with casually or throughout acquaintanceships or work relationships. You can only have about 150 people in the outer circle. You start to get to the next inner circle, which is like, family, relatives, people that you interact with on like a more regular, consistent basis, people that you're messaging with, like 50 max. Then you get to like close, like found family or family relationships. You're looking at 20. And then when you get to the people that you can really invest like everything that you have, you're looking at like 3 to 7. So like social media is like Nick was just saying about like maybe he has 400 people watching his gardening videos. Nick doesn't have the capacity to interact relationally with all 400 of those peoples. He has maybe the capacity in a social perspective to interact with 50 of them. Like let's say 50 people commented on your posts, you'd probably try and respond or like to every one of their comments, but you usually really oh yeah, exactly. You can do that. You have the capacity to do that, but you could not give the same investment to all 50 of those people that those 50 people are looking for. If someone is saying, I found Nick Mayo on TikTok and I live across the country and I really want an intimate relationship with Nick Mayo, the chance of that happening is probably very small, depending on what capacity Nick has and what capacity this person has to reciprocate relationship. So I guess all that to say, like as churches, how much are we taking the time to create intentional spaces specifically for a small group of people that are, primarily there to connect? Because that is what we're missing on social media. We're losing the small space of relationship and similarity. We're not getting lost in the sea of over, that 150 mark. We're way passing that just because so much content is coming into us right now.
Yeah.
So,
yes. I think if you are a church or a ministry or just someone who is thinking about the internet from an evangelistic perspective, I think one thing is true, secular or Christian, is that good content is the price of attention on the internet. That's always how it has been. It is continuing to be proven even more the case. That if you would like to find new people, interact with new people, engage with new people on the internet, you got to be making stuff. hopefully relatively good stuff, and especially very consistent stuff. And trust us, we know how hard that could be. But if that's what you're trying to do, that's what you got to do. And in addition to that, in addition to creating content, you need to build a space, and Discord was our chosen platform, but you can do the same things with like Facebook groups or like Instagram. What are those thread messagey things where you like,
I mean, we're missing like people in the comments are talking about like Be Real. There's Snapchat. Like there are a lot of other things we're not even tapping into, but there's so many places.
You have to build a space that is intentionally social for your community and the people you're trying to reach, to be able to speak with each other and speak with you. I won't say every, but the overwhelming majority of people's testimony stories start with a relationship of some kind, right? Surely people absolutely can get saved while just listening to a video or a song or a movie or anything like that. But the vast majority of people, it comes off of a personal relationship in which people are communicating. And if you are not developing spaces on the internet in which those relationships can be formed, you are taking your giant funnel of content and of the funnel that you've created with the content and then just yeeting it out the window, right? Like there's you're not pointing them to anywhere, right? That's why we've been so intentional with creating the Blackbar Discord. That's why as often as we can, we get people to try to get in there, because that's the space where actual relationship and connection can happen. That's where the ministry of Blackbar really happens. And I think if you're trying to reach people online, yes, as Zach said, you absolutely should not be just shotgunning for as many people as you can find. Find a niche that you know that you can target, right? Build content that is dope, that you know they're going to love. Work hard on that, get their attention, and then drive them to intentionally social places where you can develop the kind of relationships that allow you the opportunities to introduce them to Jesus. That is the route. This is not complicated. This is not anything new. This is just the Great Commission in pixels now, right? So that's what we want to see more of on the internet, and we've been talking about that since day one.
The digital missionary model, like I talk about what we know, right? The experience we know, and the experience we know is the Blackbar Discord model. I love what you said there, Caleb. That's where ministry happens, right? Like right now, we have a live podcast. We're talking with people in the comments. We're having interaction that's happening, but that interaction is only going to happen as long as this podcast is live, and we go back to see the comments and continue to respond.
Right.
But like for this audience, and for those that have already hopped into the Discord, they know that's where like the continued conversation happens, right? That's where the ministry happens. Our Blackbar Discord has different channels specifically for like prayer requests. There have been multiple times where we have had like real ministry happen in those channels. That's where that community is built. And I know we've said it before, but like there are people in our Discord that I have never been in the same room with that are my friends now because of the amount of interaction that we have pretty much on a daily basis at this point. And so that part, right? The social part of our whole social media model happens in the Discord. And the part that the bigger part of that funnel is the YouTube channel and the podcast, where people are coming to learn and to know, and that funnels into our Discord, where we're able to actually become friends with these individuals, interact with them in a more social way. And so I totally would say for us, that's the model that has worked. That's the model of online ministry that has worked for specifically Blackbar.
So guys, if I can ask, like, maybe we've talked a lot of philosophy, we've unpacked this conversation. If I'm a pastor, if I'm a church and I'm listening to this conversation, I'm like, this is resonating with me. This makes sense. What are some first steps, like foundational steps of like making this really, really practical?
I think the first thing is build the social space first. You want to build the funnel from the bottom up, right? So whether you're using Discord for that, whether you're using Facebook groups for that, Instagram chats or whatever you call those things,
Snapchat groups,
Photo Circle, apparently from Ryland, right? Whatever those Googling things are, build that space first so you have somewhere for them to go. At that point, you want to start thinking about the content that is going to bring people in. I know we've said it before. I know it hurts people's feelings every time we say it. Your Sunday morning service is not good content on the internet unless you've got the most stellar production and you are the most amazing preacher. You'll be able to suck people in every single time. People are not going to sit around for 45 minutes and wait for you to make the point. You need to figure out how to communicate the message of the gospel, the message of the Bible, whatever it is that you're talking about on Sunday, in a vehicle that is specifically for whatever platform you're on. If that means you're on TikTok, that does not mean splitting up your sermon into 30 2-minute long sections. It means communicating the message of your sermon in 1 minute to the camera. Right? If that means you're on YouTube, it means you maybe get 10 minutes, but maybe we're cutting in B-roll at this time. Maybe we're cutting in extra graphics, right? Figure out what that content is going to be and then build a sustainable model that allows you to do that.
Can you say it again, Caleb? What was that?
Sustainable model that allows you to do it consistently, because consistency is the most important part of this.
I would also add the word healthily.
Yes.
Consistently and healthily, sustainably.
And answer the questions that your community has, right? That's really it. Build the bottom of the funnel, build the social space first, discover what is the kind of content that works with the community you're trying to get, and then build a model that is sustainable and consistent and that people keep coming back to. At that point, you got the funnel built from the bottom to the top, and you will start seeing people come into that community. And if you are listening to the voice of the Spirit, he will give you opportunities to minister if you're in the right space. So
Wow.
Yeah, there's an old movie, Field of Dreams, where it's basically the story of a guy gets told by God to build a baseball field, and stuff happens. But the big part of it is the phrase, "If you build it, they will come." Right? And in the past, I've said, online ministry isn't Field of Dreams. If you build your platform, that it's not just really going to show up, right? And I think there's some parts I'm going to have to tweak of this, like build the place where your social the social part of your network's going to happen, then build upon that with your industry of entertainment or whatever it is that brings your network in. You got to build the field first before people show up. Otherwise, you're just going to have a field of people, or you're going to have an unclean field of people hanging out in the corn or whatever it is that was on the field. It might have been hay or something. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. But like, if you don't have a place for people to have the conversations that you want them to have, the life-giving, soul-saving conversations most churches are looking to create, it's not going to happen. You're going to have people that end up in a space and then go away.
Yeah. Wow. So can we say at the, as we're starting to land this conversation, our response to is social media dead is it doesn't have to be? Like, could that be a good summary, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you're right on there, Zach. Social media doesn't have to be dead. Yeah,
but you have to be intentional about it at this point.
You gotta be intentional.
If you cannot do it accidentally.
It will be the choice of the user whether or not social media will remain social. And perhaps that's a bit of a stabby comment to those out there that say social media is dead. But at the same time, I also would recognize that effort at this level may not just be an individual thing. This is the church being intentional about making their spaces social.
Right.
Cool. Guys, great stuff today. Thanks for those that are watching. I hope you guys are engaged as much as we are. I like your phrase there, Nick. Your stabby comments. We are nothing if not stabby comments today, especially.
This podcast has been just one prickly cactus. Just you like hugging a cactus and be like, you know what? It's great. It's great to have a hug. Hugs are great, but boy, this hurt. This is one of those classic Nick Mayo analogies
I was trying to predict where the analogy was
3 seconds in. It broke down so fast, but he committed so hard. And that's fine.
If nothing else, I'm committed.
Yes,
just like
and
just like a stabby cactus.
Just like a stabby cactus.
Just like how people should be committed to joining our Discord, where you can chat to us and other people that go along with the same sorts of things we are. And it's also worth mentioning that if you are interested in talking to the three of us or our team about some work that you need done, basically anything that involves pixels, marketing, communications, and tech, we'd be happy to work with you and your team and your church and help preach the gospel the way we know how.
Listen, I've got a bit, and it's probably too late for this, but I was going to ask Jesus how we should close the podcast.
Okay, do it. And I mean, while you're doing that, I'll remind everybody, please don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a bi-weekly podcast, and we'd love to see you back in 2 weeks. Did that give you enough time, Zach?
Jesus is taking a long time to think about this. Okay. All right, he gave me a script.
Oh boy.
Okay, go for it. Then we're going straight to logo
That's it.
I have no idea if this is good. As we come to the end of our podcast, I want to leave you with a message of hope and encouragement. Remember that each day is an opportunity for growth, learning, and making a positive impact on the world around us. In all that you do, strive to embody the teachings of love, compassion, and kindness. Treat others as you would like to be treated, and seek understanding even in moments of disagreement or difference. May you find the strength in your faith or personal beliefs, and may your journey be filled with joy and purpose. As we part ways for now, know that I, Jesus, am here for you whenever you need guidance or support. Take care of yourself and those around you. May blessings be upon you as you continue on your path. Goodbye.